My boat trailer is 21 years old, and with anything that ages, it is bound to show some signs of wear and tear. And you can see by these photos that there are a number of areas, especially in the cross members where the cross members join the mainframe, that there is rust and some cracking in the welds. So therefore, the trailer definitely needed some attention. It is always super important to make regular inspections on your boat and obviously your trailer as well, because that is your lifeline between you getting to and from your destination. This bolt has almost worn completely through the equalizer, which could have caused a disaster. In this picture, you can see what the good equalizer at the top should look like. I also noticed some cracking at the top of the hanger for the equalizer, and recently in a forum I saw somebody's pictures that look like this, and you can see that that cracking led to the hanger separating, and that also could have caused a disaster. Re-welding and replacing worn out parts will allow you to have a much better looking and safe trailer equalizer like this. Closer examination of the wiring showed some charred areas and poor connectors had been used, so it was time to do the rewiring as well. If you have access to a hoist, such as this one at Triton in Cambridge, Ontario, it will definitely make many aspects of doing a trailer restoration project much easier. Battery trays, sonar mounts, auger racks, custom welding, and so much more. I trust all my custom work to Triton because Jeff takes great pride in his work and completes jobs as if he were doing them for himself. What actually started this trailer restoration project was the cross members here. So this is the cross member, and this is the port side of the main frame. And I was starting to get cracking in here and down the sides. And that was on almost all of the cross members, which obviously if you have welds that are showing signs of wear and tear and stress and cracking, it's, you know, a concern, especially when you've got a 21-foot boat going down the highway. There's definitely danger involved. So the welds were fixed up, and the welds were done after it was sandblasted so that they could clearly see at Triton in Cambridge that, you know, what exactly needed to be fixed. As well, a gusset was put in place here, and this was to reinforce the welds here by attaching it from the main frame to the cross member, and the hole was drilled here simply for drainage. So all of the welds that showed any signs of stress or cracking were repaired, and that was obviously one of the main safety considerations of restoring this trailer so that it would be safe for many, many, many years to come. Here's an overview of the gusset that I just showed you, and following up the trailer, you can see that there is another gusset in the center there. And then continuing up, and this is the port side, there is another gusset in the corner there. Here's a little closer look at the middle gusset on the cross member. And coming forward towards the front of the trailer, you can see the final gusset there. So there are 3 on port side, and coming over to the starboard side, there is 3 on this starboard side as well. Here's the one that is on the front cross member. Coming back, step over, there is the second gusset. Welds are all reinforced, and I'm up over, almost falling, and there's the final gusset, and you can see in relation to the boat buckle where it is. In an earlier video on trailer bunk replacement, I showed you how to do the side rails here with a new piece of pressure treated wood. The fender carpeting is actually over a piece of composite, which was great news to me that I didn't have to cut a piece of wood to match that shape. So I was simply able to reuse that. The trailer bunks, the short one and the long one on the starboard side, all new wood, new carpeting. Check out the other video if you want to know how to do that. The fender carpeting, the short bunk, long bunk on port side, and the side rail is over here. This thumbnail will get you to the video on my channel for the trailer bunk replacement. Well, here's the trailer. We still have some work to do. The paint's got to set, but overall, it's pretty happy with it, and looks way better and much safer. Special thanks to Jeff at Tritown in Cambridge. Thank you to Mike Purdy from Tritown as well for coming in to help us with the project. A very special thank you to Barry Graves and his family for letting me leave the boat at the boathouse during the trailer restoration project. There will be checkered aluminum plates, and they are going to be cut and produced at Tritown in Cambridge, and they will be installed as step plates to get in and out of the boat. Putting a bead of silicone on the back to help secure it, as well as riveting it to the trailer. Here is the new checkered plating, and if you look closely, it's all riveted, not just adhesive like it used to be. Looks amazing. Starboard side plates are now all on, all with rivets and silicone so that they are not going. Here's a demo of what Jeff can do with the plasma cutter at the shop. Let's take a look. Here's the checker plate from the plasma cutter, and it is just super cool what they can do with that plasma cutter at Tritown. new boat buckles were installed, and they were a very necessary part of this, as the other ones that I had on were certainly on their last legs. So that was a key component of the restoration as well. The original triple red light that is underneath the roller at the back of the boat was still working, but it was definitely on its last legs. So this one was a little bit wider, and in order to facilitate it to work with the boat roller here, a bracket was made once again at Tritown and over here, and so it's dropped down a little bit, but it is going to be more visible, and once again a little safer because it is going to be that much more visible, and it's bigger, so a nice addition. One of the unexpected annoying little jobs was the pin that goes through this roller from this end, goes through the first piece and then the second piece, and obviously through the end, was originally installed with end caps, and they were rusted and seized on there. So Jeff made a new pin that is not going to rust because it's stainless steel. So that is definitely going to make it nicer if I ever have to change that out again. Here's the rusted out pin from the back roller, and this was the end cap that was so hard to get off. The end cap was on this other end, and it was quite a frustrating experience getting that off. I will do my best not to trip this time as I go over the cross members. So as you come front from the roller, and I'm stepping over as you can tell, the rubber pad, which is, I guess, if the bottom of the boat ever came down, it's got a softer piece of rubber to land on. So those were taken off initially, and there's two more there, and re-riveted on, and coming forward there is the fourth one. We're on the port side of the boat, and I'll just give you a reference just so you can see where we're at. It's a tandem axle trailer, and there's the beginning of the first leaf spring. All nuts and bolts and bushings were replaced. These are still the original leaf springs. And there is the equalizer bar that goes between the front leaf spring and the back leaf spring. Once again, all nuts, bolts, and bushings were replaced. But let's focus on this culprit right here, the equalizer bar, because that could have been the source of a potential disaster. The equalizer is the stabilizing force between the two axles. As you saw earlier, the bolt had worn a slot almost all the way through down to the bottom. And if that had gone all the way through, then my axles could have been floating, and I don't even want to think what could have happened then. Looking at the equalizer from above, there was some play in the bolts here. So with all new bolts, and I ended up doing a kit that had all the bolts and everything along with the equalizer bar. So that was a way to also quiet up the trailer and secure everything nicely together. So there was no longer any bends in some of the shackle supports that go along here. Everything is now nice and straight and flush, and therefore, as I mentioned earlier, it's nice and quiet now. New bushings around the bolts is also a stabilizing force and allowing the trailer to function quietly, as there's no metal against metal. A new LED light was put in here, and the old one had broken from the wheel jack, so it was nice to finally get that replaced. And what you do to one side, generally it's a good idea to do to the other side. So of course we have a matching LED on this side. I still have the trailer bearings to look at and inspect and repack them or replace them if necessary.
There's lots of YouTube videos out there on packing trailer bearings, so it's not going to be part of this video.
The actuator here, you can see my safety chains down here. Those were put on a few years ago, and those were a nice upgrade compared to the ones that had the wire that would always like to pierce your fingers. And you can see the hole here. That hole there was my ground, but I do have a not removable trailer tongue, but one that slides underneath, that collapses under, and you can see we moved the ground back to the main frame, and that should help a lot. The actuator, which is located under the frame here, was replaced by Matt Kelly at Top Gear Automotive a few years ago. So that is not something that I had to do, and it was replaced because the master cylinder was leaking. Top Gear is located in Cambridge, Ontario, and just a few words of wisdom from replacing the actuator. I would highly recommend that you get the entire actuator package rather than just trying to buy the individual parts like the master cylinder. It just makes sense to replace it all, especially if it's Matt did a great job, and being an avid tournament angler himself, he certainly understands bass boats. I didn't change the winch system. I thought about it, but it still works. So for now, we'll go with it. We may change it at some point. The original Triton did not have a safety chain. This is where we put the safety chain, and it is mounted and goes up underneath, and hopefully you can see that. And then there's the safety chain, and it's just hooked in right now because I don't have the boat on. So you can see, and that just latches in, and I'll show you when I actually have the boat on the trailer. The safety chain has been reattached, and it has a nice clip that makes it easy to get it on and off. It's a little tight, but it's very secure and great piece of wood. The sandblasting actually did a really nice cleanup job on the pin that you pull to swing the tongue underneath. Again, it just retracts underneath the bottom in the middle. So that was a bonus of the sandblasting. With any restoration project, you are going to discover some things, and as you'll see in a couple of pictures just after this clip, that there was some wiring concerns going on inside. Didn't like the connectors that were in there, plus some charring of the wires, so all the wires were replaced. Once again, here are two of the examples of charred wiring that were found inside the trailer frame. So it was certainly a great idea to change the wiring, plus all joints were soldered and shrink wrapped. Well, I had some Triton boat decals. This is actually for the windshield, but this looks like a great spot for it, and it looks just awesome. Here's the next decal on, and it looks just great. Super happy with it. Reflective material has now been added to both sides. Put new LED lights in, and the reverse lights. You can see the reflective tape and the 3 red lights at the back. Coming to the other side, there's the reflective tape, and we have the light and the reverse light as well. So everything is just working great. Well, I wish I had made a video earlier of how clangy and bangy and noisy the trailer was, but as we are pulling the trailer out, we're gonna go down over the end of the curb, and you can hear that everything is totally quiet. It's so awesome. So those noisy, clangy, bangy trailers, they don't need to continue to be like that if you take the time and give them the TLC they deserve. Another perspective on the equalizer. There's the tires, there's our new decal, and there's the equalizer, and you can see how it's welded neatly and everything's new and it's super quiet. Let's take a walk around and let's look at the trailer. There's the Triton decal, the plates, the decal between the tires and the plates on that side. And the same is on the other side, so I am super happy with it. Here's a side view perspective from a distance, so you get an overview of what it looks like as it's about to leave the shop at Triton.
Here is Jeff Tunk's contact information if you are interested in getting any work done at Tritown Tool and Machine Limited in Cambridge, Ontario.
Thank you for watching this video on the trailer restoration project. And as always, if you find the video enjoyable or helpful, a like, share, subscribe is always appreciated. And I would certainly like to hear any questions or comments about the trailer restoration project, and I will make sure that I answer them for you as quickly as possible. Thanks and take care. Bye for now.